On May 22nd, 2010, Adam Jones hit a ball deep into center field. It's looking like it could go over the fence, but unfortunately for him, it drops just short and the center fielder is right under it. This seems like a pretty open and shut case of you're out, buddy, but he drops it. Not only does he drop it, but he also throws his glove down at the ground out of frustration and doesn't even go after the ball because, as the commentator points out, he probably thought he just knocked it over the fence or something.
The only thing I can think of is maybe he thought it went over the fence.
Well, once again, though, you can't make that assumption.
This blunder took this play from what should have just been a simple out and turned it into a home run. And the name of that player who made this double blunder is Nyjer Morgan. He said something in the post-game interview that you'll understand later in the video why it's so funny that he said this.
It's one of those things where, I let my emotions get to me out there, which I normally never do. But, it's just one of those plays where I thought the ball went over the fence and just one of those plays where, I had to bounce back.
Also, just another little side note, he made this play just 1 month later against the same team.
Boy, will you swing at strikes, you're a good hitter.
Hits that ball pretty well to center. Morgan is back, and he climbs the wall to keep it in the ballpark.
The duality of man is crazy. Nyjer Morgan debuted with the Pirates in 2007, and for his time there, he mostly stayed under the radar. And I do want to stress mostly because the only quote-unquote highlight of his from this time is him getting very animated and then getting ejected for it.
It's one of those things where, I let my emotions get to me out there, which I normally never do.
Dude, he slammed that helmet down like he was trying to win a championship belt. A bit of a lore drop for Nyjer Morgan is that he grew up playing baseball and hockey. There are some clips of him playing hockey, I'll put some of those on screen now, and a former NHL All-Star even later called him a pretty good skater. All of this to say that I think the reason he gets so animated and heated like this is because he never really lost that rough and tumble side of him even when he was playing baseball. And yeah, that would explain some of the shenanigans he pulled that we're gonna go over in this video. 2009 was Nyjer's breakout season. He hit over 300 with good defense and stole over 40 bases. And during this season, he was traded to the Washington Nationals, and that's where the world finally started to realize that this guy is a little different. During the 9th inning of a game on August 25th, 2010, Nyjer apparently threw a ball into the stands at some of the Phillies fans and actually hit one of them. There's no actual footage of this incident, but he did receive a 7-game suspension, which he then tried to appeal. He was able to continue playing during his appeal process, and apparently him and his team's manager had no idea that this had happened, I guess. And during his appeal process, he would get into hot water 2 more times. Just 4 days later, on August 29th, Morgan managed to be out while scoring a run, and the reason is something you don't see too often. One of the rules in baseball is that if you're running the bases and one of your teammates touch you, you are instantly out. And so when his teammate sneaks one past the first baseman here, his other teammate, after he misses home, taps him and says, no, go back home and touch the base. But because he never touched the plate in the first place, he's still technically running the bases, so he's called out instantly. And just 3 days later, he receives another suspension, but this one isn't going to be as easy to appeal. Earlier in this game against the Marlins, Nyjer gets hit with a pitch, and to be fair, it looks pretty intentional. This obviously makes Nyjer pretty angry, so what he does in this game against the Marlins, where they're already 11 runs ahead of them, is he steals second and third base. And now everyone's just mad. So when they go to hit him again, this is what he does.
Behind him. He's charging the mound. Morgan's coming after him, and the Marlins are pummeling him. Oh, goodness.
For charging the mound like that, Nyjer Morgan received an 8-game suspension. On March 29th, 2011, Morgan was traded to the Brewers for Cutter Dykstra. Few fun facts about him is that he's the son of another very chaotic baseball player, and he's married to Tony Soprano's daughter. So there you go. While on the Brewers in a game against the Giants on July 22nd, 2011, Nyjer decides to get into another spat with some of the fans in the stands. But at least this time he didn't throw a ball at him. After making a nice running catch in center field, he looks to the stands and just starts pointing at everyone. He even gives them a little one of these. And he's just not stopping. This goes on for 2 whole minutes. He's having a grand old time, just loving it, and he even says so in the post-game interview.
Oh man, 2 outs. But then I started going overhand after because, I heard something say that they thought I flipped them off, but I don't know.
What did you think of the fans just in general overall here?
I'm from here. It's nothing. No, I love it. Love it.
You feed off that?
And since we're on the topic of post-game interviews, there's a pretty interesting one he gave just over a week after this last one. Let's take a look at a few moments from that.
Here we go, a subdued Niger Morgan right now. Niger,
more like Tony Gumbel right now. Somewhere I can just work my hands and then just tickle them into the outfield.
Flush the mentals?
Flush the mentals.
All right.
Now notice that he says the phrase plush to mentals. Well, the reason for that is because Niger Morgan developed an alter ego that he uses on the baseball field. He calls himself Tony Plush, and according to Niger, Tony Plush is everything that he isn't. Supposedly, Tony Plush is supposed to be like his gentleman's name. Yeah, a gentleman. That's what I'd call him. Typical trademarks of Tony Plush are he's still brash, but in a much funnier and more articulate way. He makes a T with his hands, and he shoots an invisible bow and arrow. A lot. But when he's angry, all that stuff just kinda goes out the window. Like, for example, on September 7th, 2011, when he threw chewing tobacco at a pitcher during a dispute. He was ejected for this, of course, and Albert Pujols apparently said something to him on his way out, so they almost got into a fight, but the benches just ended up clearing and nothing really happened. After the game, Morgan referred to him as Alberta on Twitter and said, "It's all okay because the Brewers are in first place and the Cardinals are not."
But then as soon as he said it, he turns his back and runs away. So it's whatever. It is what it is. We're still in first place.
He doesn't seem to have a Twitter anymore, but you can still find some of his old tweets on Google. He had this catchphrase he used to always use, which was, gotta go. And at one point he was allegedly hacked, and the person that hacked him just started tweeting stuff about how he cheated on his girlfriend or something. It was a wild time. But going back to that season we were talking about, in the postseason, in a winner-takes-all game against the Diamondbacks, Niger Morgan found himself in a position to walk off a game and a series. And he did it in the most Niger Morgan way possible. This clip has everything. He smacks one up the middle, falcon flies to first base, gets swarmed by his team at the mound, growls at the camera like a bear, crashes one of his teammates' interviews, and says the F word on live television 3 times. It's a pretty awesome celebration. The Brewers didn't end up making it to the World Series that year, but that doesn't take away the fact that this was still an awesome moment. And when the next season rolls around, Morgan's back to his classic antics. In this game against the Reds on June 27th, 2012, Morgan's playing right field and the batter hits a ball foul towards him. Similar to some of the ones I talked about in my fans influencing games video, a fan leans over and blocks him from catching the ball. Now, of course, this isn't Niger Morgan's first rodeo of interacting with fans that make him mad. So after this interaction, he gives him a little shove to tell him like, "Hey man, why did you do that?" And to be fair, it was over the line, and if you're staring up at this ball trying to catch it when it's coming down, you're not really going to be looking around you. But at the same time, I can understand Morgan's position because like that fan 100% interfered. I don't think he was actually like suspended or anything over this one, so there's that, I guess. The thing about Niger's antics when it came to his teams that he was on is that they would put up with it as long as he was a good player, and at the time he was. Even during the Tony Plush run, he was a productive player who'd hit for a good average, steal some bases, and play valuable defense. And when all that went away in 2012, no MLB team wanted to give him a job for 2013. So he found himself having to rebound in Japan before managing to earn an opportunity with Cleveland in 2014, making their opening day roster. He played pretty well for him for a few games early in that year. And of course, he managed to belly flop on a stolen base, trip over nothing on a bunt. He thought that was funny though. Hit his last ever MLB home run during that stretch and made some funny hand gestures the entire time he rounded the bases. Even when he's chilled out, he's still animated. But then he hurt his knee, got cut from the team a couple months later, and never played MLB again. He spent some time bouncing around a handful of foreign leagues before being out of organized baseball by 2018 entirely. After leaving baseball, he said he was mad at the game for a while. Clearly unhappy with how abrupt his end in MLB was. But then he turned a new leaf. He took anger management classes, spent much of his time with his wife and kids, and worked in real estate to reset from baseball. But as with pretty much every baseball player that has ever existed, that baseball part of his brain never left completely. And today, he's found a new role in the sport: coaching. First as a volunteer in the Miami area, now looking to build his own program called Tony Plush's Elite Baseball. Coach Plush is now a thing as he gives back to the future generations of players. He even envisions turning Tony Plush into a children's book character someday. Even with all of this, for the most part, he seemed to be out of sight and out of mind after his time as that crazy guy in the MLB ended. But all that changed the next time the Brewers made it to the playoffs in the 2018 season, and an old friend resurfaced. And guess who threw out the first pitch of the 2018 NLDS in Milwaukee? It wouldn't be the last time they'd bring him back for this honor either. So, at the end of the day, at least there's still some love out there for that one-of-a-kind Nyjer Morgan/Tony Plush experience. I think it's good to realize that you shouldn't look back on your life with longing or envy. You can always look back on the good old times, but you should always be pushing forward and trying to make more of what you're going to do tomorrow. Everything has to come to an end at some point. Sometimes it's earlier than you'd like, but you just gotta move on and work on the next thing that makes you happy. I will say though, I am an idiot, so take whatever I say with a grain of salt. Anyways, thank you all for watching this video. I had a great time making it, and if you made it all the way to the end, let me know what your favorite Nyjer Morgan moment was. Or just comment anything, it just helps with the algorithm. And of course, like and subscribe, all that jazz. I think I'm gonna skedaddle, so have a lovely day, gamers. Peace.